Khalil. Khalil, wasn't it? Since the incident, names were so hard. Khalil walked briskly through the uneven stone streets of the new town. It was always different to be born anew. This time the body was fragile, but also agile. Khalil snickered. Despite having lived for so long, they were still quite juvenile. It was one of the symptoms of these quick visits into life, so abrupt, so visceral. Khalil had been a scientist once, or some word like that anyway. Who could remember? The point is, he used to do experiments. From his youth, he had tinkered with various potions and telescope kits. It had led him into college and career. He got lost in the corporate atmosphere for a time, providing quick cash to various unseemly characters. Eventually, he got the calling, the pull, the itch. It came to him as a hobby, just a few extra experiments at home, nothing deep, just enough to stay fresh, to keep the dust off the kits. It brought a smile to Khalil's face on many cold and lonely nights spent in a small apartment, blissfully working away on some project, something to satisfy the hands and the time. Khalil had gotten dug in, as they say. It happened suddenly, like falling down a steep hill into the brambles, forgetting to emerge from the apartment, forgetting to call in sick for work, failing to eat. Eventually, someone came looking. It wasn't anyone from his office. They had relieved him of his duties by phone. Instead, it was a landlord looking for a rent check. Only they wouldn't get one from Khalil ever again. All they found was the ashy remains of a fire. It had torched the inside of the apartment, the outside untouched and pristine. A devastating loss. The fool had deactivated the fire precautions, the landlord scoffed. They couldn't make out the remains of an experiment, let alone a corpse under all the debris. It was deemed an accident, although the gossipers always questioned whether or not quiet Khalil had done himself in, and he had, in a manner of speaking. The latest experiment had been a success. Khalil had purposely been transported to another plane of reality, another time and place entirely. Only they hadn't remained themselves. Instead, they had become a young schoolteacher. Or was it a banker? It was hard to keep them all straight at this point. The list was so long and becoming ever longer. In any case, the transition had been jarring. Khalil had found himself with a new set of emotions, new senses, new desires, a new body, hands, feet, hair, a whole life, appointments, drills, tests, lovers. It was impossible to be prepared. It was draining, yet fulfilling. The experiment had an unintended cascading effect. Every jump would eventually build up enough energy for the next, and there was nothing that could stop it. Khalil had tried everything they could think of to break the chain, countless failed attempts using as many mediums as possible. Each time the change would come as a rising wave, and Khalil would be ripped away again. When the next jump finally happened, there was never enough time for goodbyes, plans, or to write down anything to keep as a record. Khalil would be swept up, shaken, and dropped into a fresh life. Over time, they found themselves enjoying the spontaneous bursts of otherness, learning to relish, perhaps crave, the fleeting moment of realization that came when they were once again born anew. To realize the whole of a life in a brief flicker, in just an instant. Before long, the flood of ever-increasing past selves would clog up the works, and so Khalil tried to stay immersed in thoughts of the current self, memories of life. It became that he would not realize, not even remember, if he were to wake up and find himself in his original body. This time, a humble bread maker, just yeast and sourdough, clients and balancing ledgers, a little musical hobby on the side. Simple. A scream, a flash of light. His eyes opened to the shine of copper streets. Erevan. It was Erevan, wasn't it? Yes, of course. Since the incident, names were so hard. Erevan walked briskly through the dome spheres of the inner planet. This new plane had a delightful kind of smell, one that just filled the lungs with energy.